Bhagavatam ki Jai. All glories to the Son devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Son devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Yasam Tato Jayamudire Nashta Presha Vandrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktar Bhakti Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we continue to study Srimad Bhagavatam. And today the verse 5, 10, 15. Sachapi Pandaveya Sindhu Savira Patis Tattva Jigyasayam Samyak. Okay, then I will read because it's a very. I don't know the proper score for this shloka. Okay. Sachapi Pandaveya Sindhu Savira Patis Tattva Jigyasayam Samyak Shradhayadhi Kritadhi Karastad Dhridaya Granthi Mochanam Dvijavacha Ashrutya Bahuyuga Grantha Sammatam Tvarayavaruhya Shirasa Padam Mulam Upashritam Kshamapayan Vigatan Ripadeva Smaya Uvacha. So, word by word translation. Saham Hi Maharaja Rahugana. Cha also. Api indeed. Pandaveya, O best of the Pandav dynasty, Maharaja Parikshit.
O best of the Pandav dynasty, Maharaja Parikshit.
Sindhu Savirapatihi, the king of the states known as Sindhu and Sauvira.
The king of the states known as Sindhu and Sauvira.
Tattva Jigyasayam, in the matter of inquiring about the absolute truth.
In the matter of inquiring about the absolute truth.
Samyak Shradhaya, by faith consisting of complete control of the senses and the mind.
By faith consisting of complete control of the senses and the mind.
Adhikrita Adhikaraha, who attained the proper qualification. That. Hridaya Granthi, the knot of false conceptions within the heart. Mochanam, which eradicates. Dvijavachaha, the words of the Brahmana, Jadabharata. Ashutya, hearing. Bahu Yoga Grantha Sammatam, approved by all yogic processes and their scriptures. Tvaraya, very hastily. Avaruhya, getting down from the palanquin. Shirasa, by his head. Padamulam, at the lotus feet. Upashitaha, falling down flat to offer obeisances. Kshamapayam, obtaining pardon for his offense. Vigatan Ripadeva Smayaha, giving up the false pride of being the king,
Giving up the false pride of being the king,
and therefore being worshipable. Uvacha said. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shukadeva Goswami continued. O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaja Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Sauvira states, Maharaja Rahugana, had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jada Bharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process, and which slackens the knot in the heart. His material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. He immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head at the lotus feet of Jada Bharata, in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words against the great Brahmana. He then prayed as follows. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 4.2, Lord Krishna says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajasha yoviduhu sakaleneha mahata yoga nashtaha parantapa. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Through the disciplic succession, the royal order was on the same platform as great saintly persons, Raja Rishis. Formerly, they could understand the philosophy of life and knew how to train the citizens to come to the same standard. In other words, they knew how to deliver the citizens from the entanglement of birth and death. When Maharaja Dasharatha ruled Ayodhya, the great sage Vishwamitra once came to him to take away Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana to the forest to kill a demon. When saintly person Vishwamitra came to the court of Maharaja Dasharatha, the king, in order to receive the saintly person, asked him, Ayahishtam yattat punar janma jayaya. He asked the sage whether everything was going on well in his endeavor to conquer the repetition of birth and death. The whole process of Vedic civilization is based on this point. We must know how to conquer the repetition of birth and death. Maharaja Rahugana also knew the purpose of life. Therefore, when Jada Bharata put the philosophy of life before him, he immediately appreciated it. This is the foundation of Vedic society. Learned scholars, brahmanas, saintly persons, and sages who were fully aware of the Vedic purpose advised the royal order how to benefit the general masses. And by their cooperation, the general masses were benefited. Therefore, everything was successful. Maharaja Rahugana attained this perfection of understanding the value of human life. Therefore, he regretted his insulting words to Jada Bharata, and he immediately descended from his palanquin and fell down at the lotus feet of Jada Bharata in order to be excused and to hear from him further about the values of life as Brahma Jignasa, inquiry into the absolute truth. At the present moment, high government officials are ignorant of the values of life, and when saintly persons endeavor to broadcast the Vedic knowledge, the so-called executives do not offer their respectful obeisances but try to obstruct the spiritual propaganda. Thus, one can say that the former kingly government was like heaven and that the present government is like hell. Omagena Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadrujatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhunevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum gayate girim yatkripatamam mande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna devotees. So we will read the verse again. Or maybe we can repeat even if you like. Shukadeva Goswami continued.
Shukadeva Goswami continued.
O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaja Parikshit.
O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit.
The king of the Sindhu and Kauvira states, Maharaja Raghumana,
The king of the Sindhu and Savira states, Maharaj Raghumana,
had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth.
had great faith in the discussions of the absolute truth.
Being thus qualified, he heard from Jada Bharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process, and which slackens the knot in the heart. His material conception of himself as a king was destroyed. He immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head at the lotus feet of Jadabharata in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words. Insulting words against the great Brahman. He then prayed as follows. So here in the commentary, first Srila Prabhupada quotes the shloka from Bhagavad Gita, Evam Parampara Praptam. So the supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So this knowledge in ancient times was primarily passed on to Brahmanas and saintly kings. And only then Brahmanas and kings, they were supposed to teach like people in general, the citizens, their dependents. But so it was mostly meant for Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. And of course, so Brahmanas, they study Shastra more deeply than Kshatriyas. But Kshatriyas, they also have to study Vedic knowledge, especially Dharma Shastra. Yes, they also have to be learned, otherwise how can they rule the countries or the world, if they rule the whole world. Yeah, so they also had to be learned in the Shastra. And the primary duty of a Kshatriya is to protect his citizens from lust, actually, because this is the only thing which keeps us here in this material world. So yeah, their main duty is to deliver their dependents, the citizens, from this repetition of births and deaths, from the cycle. And this is their primary duty, and that's why they protect Dharma, this system, this Vedic culture. Yes, and in order to protect it, of course, they have to know it also. They have to know it. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one nice shloka, and which is spoken by Rishabhadeva to his sons. Just a minute. Very famous shloka. Guru nasasyat, svajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat, janani nasasyat, daivam natatsyan, na patishchasasyan, na mochayat yah samupetam rityum. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. And kings, they're kind of like also play a role like, well, not demigods, but in some sense they also play this role. They also accept this worship from people in general. Kshatriyas, they also can be included in this list actually. And because this is their main duty to deliver their dependence from the path of repeated birth and death. And Rishabhadeva says if one cannot deliver his dependence from this cycle of deaths and births, then such a person has no right to become a king or a mother or a demigod or a guru. And the second thing, he is forbidden to accept worship. He is forbidden to accept worship from his dependents. Otherwise, he is going to hell, and those also who worship such person, they cannot progress. It's also not beneficial for them. So, it's very important that if we want to take this position, occupy this position, that you have to be sure that you can really save that people from this danger of this material world. And Rahugana, he was also educated because he was a king. As a king, he was educated in Vedic knowledge to some extent. So he knew the purpose of life. And when Jadabharata opened his mouth, he could realize that, wow, actually it's a very great person, great soul. And he could appreciate him as not just as a Brahmana, but as a devotee, as a Vaishnava also. And so, in Vedic system, Kshatriyas, yes, they rule they rule the states, the countries, rule people, but they do it under the guidance of Brahmanas. They must to be under the guidance of Brahmanas. And so because Brahmanas, and actually in the commentary, where the commentary, it is said that Brahmanas are fully educated. Kshatriyas, they are also educated, but not fully. They are not fully educated, and that's why Brahmanas. So Kshatriyas, they are ahead, but Kshatriyas, they are the neck. Yes. So Kshatriyas, they are the head. Brahmanas, they are the neck. So where the neck turns, the head also turns that direction. So they have to follow. And in Bhagavad Gita and also in Srimad Bhagavatam, the qualities of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas are described. And I would like to read about those qualities. So this is the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 42nd verse. Shamodamastapakshaucham kshantir arjavam evacha gnanam vignanam astikyam brahma karma sabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So amongst all the other qualities, so knowledge and wisdom. And then the qualities of Kshatriyas. Shauryam tejo dhritir dakshyam yudhya chat Piya Palayanam Danam Ishvara Bhavashcha Kshatram Karma Svabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Knowledge is not listed here, but of course they are meant to have knowledge also. They have to have knowledge. But because there's difference of between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. So, and the main differences. So Brahmanas, they are under the control of goodness, the mode of goodness, and Kshatriyas, they are under the control of Rajaguna mostly. And Rajaguna means they still have, like, they have more material desires, and of course, especially Kshatriyas, they have access to so much enjoyment actually, and because of that, it's an impediment to learn the Shastra more deeply, because we have some impurities. This Rajaguna doesn't allow us to study more deeply, and also the intelligence of Brahmanas actually is much more developed. Yeah, it's much more developed. It's more refined, and it has more capacity to study, to comprehend more deeply, and to realize things on a deeper level than Kshatriyas. But Kshatriyas, they also can. Yeah. And also, Brahmanas, they are called visionaries. They have vision where to go. Kshatriyas, they can organize everything, they can manage everything, how to go, but where to go, this Brahmanas, they know better where to go. And Kshatriyas, they also have vision, but their vision is deep, but not wide enough. But the vision of Brahmanas is very deep, is wide, and also far. You can see far. You can far see things. So they see also far. So it's like 3D. This is here. We can say this is the intelligence of Brahmanas. So that's why, for example, for example, sometimes we can say the situation. Sometimes, also this wideness. Kshatriyas, they can understand some topics, some aspects of our life deeply, but not always. It's easy for them to see the whole picture, like how everything, all the aspects of this our practice are connected with each other. So, but Brahmanas, they can see the whole picture, how all the aspects are connected. Sometimes it's really hard to understand how they are connected. Sometimes it seems that they're not connected at all. This aspect of our practice and that aspect of our practice, it's really hard to see the connection. But Brahmanas can see on a more subtle level how they're actually connected. And we also have to take into consideration not only this aspect of life, and also that aspect of life also. So for Brahmanas, it's easier to see the whole picture. And also they can see very far. So for example, if we have some problem currently, but the problem is very, very small, and it seems that it's not a problem at all, and we don't pay attention to this problem. We have many other, like, much bigger problems. Why to pay attention to this small problem? But in the future, this very, very small problem can grow into very big, and so it's also not always easy for Kshatriyas to see how this small problem, which is neglected now, can grow into very big problem in the future. That's why, but Brahmanas, they can see it. They say, no, we have to pay attention to this problem now. otherwise it will be like in the future this small thing will start playing against us. Yeah, and we will lose. Yeah. So this is the difference of this more wide, more deep, more this such intelligence. And for example, the balance of preaching. I remember my Guru Maharaj once he said that there should be balance between internal preaching and external preaching. So external preaching, this is we preach to people who don't know about Krishna consciousness anything. They don't know anything about Krishna consciousness. And there are devotees who are already practice Krishna consciousness, but we also have to preach to them. If we do so much external preaching, we bring so many new people inside, but at the same time we don't facilitate spiritual growth of those devotees who are already in the movement, then it can lead to very, how to say, there will be this balance, and the quality of our culture and everything will go down. Yeah, so it's very important. Or for example, we can preach so much to the devotees who are already in the movement, but we don't do much external preaching. We don't go out on book distribution. We don't do any other preaching programs for people in general. Then also it's how to say, our consciousness also will go down gradually. Yeah, so that's and also this is the meaning of the purpose of our movement, to save as many people as possible. Yeah, this is compassion. This is Krishna's desire. He doesn't want us to be self-satisfied, or we're here, so nice prasadam, beautiful deities, everything is this goodness and nice lifestyle, and we are self-satisfied. We don't need anything, and we forgot about other living beings. No, we have to also preach. So there should be this balance. Yeah, but sometimes we preach a lot to outsiders, but we don't pay enough attention to, for example, devotee care. It's also very important. And recently, one devotee also told the story about one Prabhu. It's in Budapest. He lives in Budapest. He has been going to the temple in Budapest for many years now already, for about 7 years, and but he comes, but he doesn't associate with devotees, and he doesn't take any services. And that devotee who told that story, he asked him, so you're coming, but you're always aloof. You don't associate much with devotees. Can I ask you why? And that man replied. He said, once when I came, I saw how devotees who live in the temple, or that's local devotees from the community, how they treat each other. And then he said, I said to myself, I don't want to become one of them. So this is a good lesson for us here. It's very important how we treat each other, how we take care of each other. This is also a preaching for others. Yeah, and this is how we can motivate other people to stay or not stay in our movement. So yeah, that's why. Yes, so the intelligence and vision of Brahmanas is much more broader. And in the commentary, Srila Prabhupada says that by their cooperation, meaning Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, the general masses were benefited. Yeah, it means Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, they have to cooperate with each other. Yes, they cooperate. Actually, all the varnas, of course, because all the varnas are interdependent. This is the whole organism of the society. And Rahugana, King Rahugana, he was educated, but not fully, because Because he was proud in the beginning when he met Jadabharata, and Jadabharata was also carrying the palanquin, but not nicely. And of course, King Rahugana got angry. He was dissatisfied, and he was offensive towards Jadabharata because of his identification with his position. It means if he had knowledge, like brahmanas, like full knowledge, he wouldn't be proud, and he wouldn't identify himself with his position. Yeah, this is the difference. But he had knowledge. He had the knowledge about the purpose of human life. Yeah, he knew that. But there was a turning point. Yes, when Jadabharata opened his mouth and started speaking these high elevated topics about the absolute truth, and then Maharaja Rahugana, King Rahugana, he came to his senses. He realized, yes, actually, I'm not a king. I'm a soul like this person, we're all part and parcel of Krishna, God. I have no reason to be proud and to be rude. And he also realized how offensive he was towards Jadabharata, and he immediately fell down to the ground at his lotus feet. He paid obeisances, and he begged for his forgiveness. So that was a turning point. And then he got qualification also. He became qualified to listen further because he still had some pride inside. He couldn't listen further, more deep, more elevated topics, and then he got purified, qualified to hear. It means humility. One of the main qualities to listen is humility. Yeah. If we don't have humility, if we are not humble, we cannot accept any advice. We cannot accept knowledge from other people. Yes, and there is a story about Maharaja Venu. Do you remember whose son he was? Venu. His father was actually quite a pious person, as I remember. But the Venu was, I forgot. But I know that he was Venu was the father of Prithu Maharaj. Yeah. But okay, anyway, he was a very degraded person, but he was the king. Yeah, he was the king. And so the King Vena, the father of Prithu Maharaja, was condemned by the Brahmanas and saintly persons because of his denying the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and rejecting the method of satisfying him by performance of Vedic sacrifice. Yeah, he wanted to forbid all Vedic sacrifices, and he was against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was denying his existence, and he also forbade all these Vedic sacrifices. And it was dangerous for the whole human society, and the Brahmanas, they saw that it's a big problem, and then they tried actually in a more peaceful way to to change his mood, his demonic mood. But he didn't listen to anyone. And finally, then Brahmanas, they just gathered. They were very powerful. They had their Brahma tejas. They chanted some specific mantras, and just by chanting of those mantras, they killed Venu. So this is what happens. So yeah, in the end of the commentary, Srila Prabhupada writes also that thus one can say that the former kingly government was like heaven, and that the present government is like hell, and we can see it now. Actually, day by day it's even worse. It's better not to hear the news at all, because it's every day so many things are happening in the world. It's, I know. Shishijagana Bhagavati Maiki Jai. Shishigori Jai. Yeah, because our present, like our modern leadership, like presidents, they don't have spiritual values. They don't know the ultimate purpose of human life, and of course they cannot lead the citizens to that final goal. They cannot guide them, and they just, instead of creating auspicious atmosphere for spiritual progress, they create this inauspicious atmosphere for degradation. They just they facilitate degradation, actually. Yeah. And but what can we do? For example, like ordinary people, what can we do if we don't have such kings who can guide us, and lead towards Krishna, towards God? But luckily, by Krishna's grace, we have our Guru Parampara, and through that Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada also came, and Srila Prabhupada gave us this Vedic culture, and also out of his disciples, he made bona fide gurus. We have many bona fide gurus in ISKCON, and we can take shelter of them, and they are capable of bringing us to our final destination, Galoka Vrindavana. So this is our only hope. Srila Prabhupada has given us practice of pure bhakti, Shuddha bhakti. So despite the fact that it seems like the whole world is so much shaky, everything is so much shaky now, it's hard to rely on anything. Anything can happen at any moment. But if we stick to the process of pure bhakti, if we take strong hold to the Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, to the lotus feet of our spiritual masters and senior Vaishnavas, then despite all these tribulations, we can be saved and go back to Goloka Vrindavana. So this is in the end. Hare Krishna. If you have some additions, corrections, questions, Hare Krishna.
You explained so nicely the qualities and the requirements for Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. It was a nice aspect of knowledge, how important it is for both of them at different ways. And that the Brahmanas have more deep knowledge and the Kshatriyas are also need, of course, but differently. And I really like the point of the humility for reading and hearing, that it's very important. What we need to have in order to hear and read. And just when you were speaking about devotee care, and like I hear it often that devotees never leave because of Krishna consciousness or philosophy or service or something, but mostly because of devotees. So like they.
You mean the lack of devotee care?
Yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's one of the main reasons also. Yeah. Yeah, it's very important how to say aspects of our practice, like in our movement, to pay attention. Yeah, devotee care is very important. Thank you so much.
Repeat the verse. Read the verse.
Sorry?
The verse.
The verse?
Yeah,
I should read it again?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will Shukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaja Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Sauvira states, Maharaja Rahugana, had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jada Bharata that philosophical presentation, which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process, and which slackens the knot in the heart. His material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. He immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head at the lotus feet of Jada Bharata in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words against the great Brahmana. He then prayed as follows.
That comes tomorrow.
No, this is what our today.
Yeah,
No,
the
they pray.
The prayer as follows, that comes tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Should we finish? Okay. Granta Rachimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
You didn't use the microphone?
No, we didn't use.
Because there is always devotees watching online.
And they couldn't hear.
And sometimes even when it was in the kitchen. So it's always good to use the microphone.
It means they couldn't hear today.
Sometimes they can hear, but they can hear less.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
So,
Today is Ekadashi?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So nice it was.
Thank you very much. You saved the situation. But otherwise, anyway, I would just preach to the whole. Ashil Prabhupada said.
There is always online Sunday books.
Okay.
That's also.
Thank you.
But yeah.
I see you are a good listener. Okay, now I know that the microphone is very important to use, but it was turned off. Yeah.
No, I can just turn it on.
Maybe a little bit was close to me.
A little, no.
Yeah, it's still.